Okay, the first thing we got to do is drop this pan out, and we got to drain it. There's no drain plug on the focus case of the trans or in the pan, so we got to get most of these bolts out, and then we'll keep a couple in, and we'll start breaking that seal on there. So we're going to take out all the bolts that you see here. All the ones on the back side are out. The bottom of this pan. And we're going to leave one on each side. So we're going to go ahead and loosen these, but we're going to keep them in the trans. So we're going to loosen them just a little bit like that. Same thing over here. Loosen it, but keep it in. Something like that. Then we can start working that pan off of there. Now what I like to use is a 2-3 inch scraper, so that's a little wider, metal obviously, and we can you know, a thinner variety, and we can get in there with a hammer and tap on it and start separating the seam on there without bending the pan or gouging it up like with a flat blade screwdriver. So this right here is the best option. So just do what I did right here and start working it all the way around, and on the back side here, and we can get that fluid drained out. After you get the initial popping on there, just keep working it along here, along the edge, and you can kind of work it down, and it'll pop like that, and you can let it drain out. And then these two screws hold it, no problem, with no deforming of the pan. And we can get, you know, 80% of the fluid out, and then we can go ahead and pull the pan down. So what I'm going to do is identify each one of these solenoids so we know what they are, in case you're in here for different solenoids or issues than we are currently in here for. This one right here is a line pressure control. That one's shift solenoid A, shift solenoid B. And over here, and these ones rarely ever fail, I've never had to change one out, is C, D, and E shift solenoids. Right here, what's attached to the filter is the trans fluid temperature sensor. So what I'll go over is the shift solenoid A, changing that one out. That's the most common one. This one and this one are exact same part number. This is B. This one I guess gets used more, so it fails more often. But I've on my high mileage Focus I had back in the day, it was an 01 Focus. The B finally went out. So it is possible to have to get that B code also, but A is the absolute most common. And you'll get a P0750 code, which is the electrical failure. The PCM basically monitors and makes sure that this solenoid inside of here is has a path to ground, basically, but you know, full continuity. And if it's lost at any time, it sets the 750 code for electrical fault. And that's the one that's easy to identify and change out. What are you doing? So in order to do that, just press up on this tang right here, and then pull out. Get it to the side. Get these other wires away from it. Now after you pull that electrical connector, it's very simple. It's an 8mm bolt right there. Bolt out. Once that bolt is out, we can go ahead and just wiggle it, and it'll pull out. There's two good sized O-rings on there, so it may take a little bit of effort to get out. And besides that, it's reversal of removal. Alright, now we got the new solenoid in. Clean up all your connections here and make sure they're all snapped in all the way. to hear that click. Anything you've touched. Make sure none of these wires are rubbing on any of the metal here because they are exposed. Make sure they got some distance here and there. Stuff like that. Make sure that ground screw is back in and tight. Fluid temp sensor's back in there. Filter's fully seated as shown. Make sure your sealing surfaces for the pan here are clean of all the old silicone, and then give them a good wipe down with brake clean. Same thing with your pan. Get all the old material off so it looks something like this, and make sure the whole pan's clean from the with brake clean, wipe down so you can get a good seal on there. Make sure you clean your magnet and that you put it back in there. Don't forget it. So clean it and put it right back in there. Now it's time for the silicone sealant. Put a bead of silicone sealant on there, made for ATF. Something like that. When you go around those bolt holes like that, you go around on the inside, towards the inside of the pan here. About that thick, and it'll flatten out and provide a good seal. It's always a good idea just before you put that pan back up there to give it a good cleaning once more in case there's any drips or anything like that. Let me get a good seal. Once you get that pan up, put all the bolts in by hand, and so you don't cross thread them. And after that, they're 89 inch-pounds the torque spec, and it's a crisscross pattern, you know, back and forth. And when you're done, you should have some kind of a squish like that. Something like that for a squish. And that should be about the same on the inside of the pan, just a little past the lip. Something like that. And we'll know we got a full seal for that full rim of the pan there. Once you got it all torqued down, let it sit for at least an hour before you start filling with any kind of trans fluid. So whenever you're doing a repair that concerns trans shifting or engagements or misfires, anything to do with the engine drivability or trans drivability, it's very important to make sure that you clear the memory in the PCM so it starts out fresh and it learns that new part you put in, and it gets rid of all those old values and learns fresh. So go ahead and do this procedure with clearing the memory. I got a whole video on it, and I'll put a link here in the description on how to do that in detail. And let that do the clearing while you're waiting for that RGB to seal up on here. So when you refill the trans, start off with 3 quarts and then go from there. And the older ones take Mercon V, and these new ones, I think it's starting in 08, they take Mercon LV, like that. So start off at 3 quarts and then adjust from there, and then go on a test drive and come back and then recheck your level in park, hot idle, and see if you're in the hash marks.